Welcome to another episode of Casual Cinephilia, where enthusiastic amateurs talk very passionately about movies. I'm Ian.
I'm Lorian, and today we are talking about John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum.
Whew, that is a mouthful.
Yes.
And there is going to be a fourth. Spoiler alerts, we're going to spoil everything you love about this movie. The way it ended, there's going to be a fourth, so I can't wait for John Wick Chapter 4, some other Greek
Chapter
or
4, Latin
word.
phrase, emoji. It's going to be a table flip emoji. I thought that one through.
Yeah, if it's not, I will be thoroughly upset if it's not a table flip emoji. So I'm curious what your thoughts are of Parabellum.
Okay. This is not my genre, as we went over in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I am in the middle of working basically 4 full-time high-stress jobs at this exact moment in my life.
Right.
And while I didn't dislike the movie, I felt incredibly uncomfortable in the audience.
Really?
I just don't like being in a room full of people that say, "Get him, boy!" when someone shoves a knife through someone's eyeball. I did not like that experience one bit.
I mean, that's fair.
But the movie itself, I mean, I'm not going to go buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But I see its merits. They're well made. I like Jason Mantzoukas, and he was in this one in his one true role as hobo assassin informant. Just need Prince in there somewhere. Hobo assassin informant Prince, and that's what he was born to play.
Fair. Very fair. Going off of crowd, I went this morning. So
okay.
The morning of recording.
That might have been another of my issues. The only time I could carve out was Thursday night, the night before it came out. So I was getting we have to see John Wick fans.
But here's the thing. I saw it first showing on a Sunday, and it was full.
Yeah.
It was a full theater. I knew John Wick has become more than just a cult.
Sure.
Following, but I wasn't expecting it Sunday morning, 10 a.m.
You didn't think a whole lot of people would replace church with watching Keanu Reeves murder hundreds of people graphically?
Well, I mean, it is a religious experience, so I'll give you that. But, there was a lot of people in there. And I had the opposite experience. My theater was full of people when the knife goes through the eye of people going, "Oh!"
That would have been fine with me.
And when that fight's over,
sure.
And that one guy's still struggling to get up, and John Wick picks up the axe. The guy next to me goes, "No," and they throw it and it hits, and everyone just goes, "Oh!"
See, I would have been fine with that crowd.
Yeah.
Mine was clapping and laughing at the most gory murders.
Ugh.
And I was if I stand up and leave, which I considered more than any other movie I've ever seen.
Really?
Not because of the film. The film was exactly what I expected it to be. But the audience was just on an edge that made me uncomfortable.
But
I was if I stand up and leave, they'll murder me. These people have bloodlust.
Oh, man. Speaking of bloodlust, I feel like this one was gorier than all the others.
It's time to wake up.
Time to wake up, Lorian. Wake up! This has all been a dream.
Oh. How much of it? I need to know where to assess back into
all the things that you've accomplished in the dream.
Great.
You still have to do them all.
Oh, good. Thanks.
But, as I was saying, it feels like this one was gorier than the other two.
Yes. I agree. Yeah, it seems to have...
Wow,
raining.
It's pouring down right now.
It seemed to have shorter takes, more jumping cuts in some of the action, and more gore, which is not a direction I love. because the artistry of the choreography and the cinematography are the access points at which I can view these films happily.
Right.
And it wasn't bad, and it didn't go back to like a Fast and Furious standard by any means.
No, definitely
but
not.
yeah, it does seem to be veering in that general direction slightly.
Well, and I totally agree with you. It was. So my hot take is I loved this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun.
It's not a hot take.
No, no, but I'm getting to the hot take part of it. I love this movie. John Wick has quickly become one of my favorite franchises because it knows what it is and it does it. It doesn't try to be anything other than it's what it is.
Sure.
The thing is, though, the first two movies were very aware of distance and time. And I felt that this one lost that. Because there's a point where John Wick goes to Casablanca, Morocco, and into the desert in Africa, North Africa.
Right.
And then makes it back to New York within 7 days. And I'm sure you could do it, but for what they did, you couldn't, I feel like.
Yeah.
And the first two movies, like, it felt like...
Right, a few days apiece.
Yeah, and so all three movies take place within 3 weeks. The first movie is literally, I think, like 3 days. And the second movie starts right after the first one. And it takes place over, I think, like 3 days or something like that. And then this is like a week later, this movie starts.
This movie starts within seconds of the second one. Because he's got his hour before he's excommunicado.
Sorry.
They literally start you the second the last one ended.
Oh my god. So it doesn't make any sense timescale-wise. That's the thing that bugs me, is the first two were so on it.
Yeah, they were precise.
Very precise. This one, it felt less precise. It didn't take away from my enjoyment.
Sure.
But it took away from the grandeur of it all. Because the thing that I praise the first two for is that preciseness and the continuity.
Right.
And this one still had some like continuity from the first two.
But
it didn't feel like it had the continuity of itself.
It felt like... I know it's all the same team and everything, but it felt like someone else had stepped in.
Yeah.
It felt like a more standard movie approach to continuity and timekeeping. The other two were very differently paced than an action film, and this one was a little closer to the mark. I feel like they also have been reusing visuals that were very unique in the first two. There was a lot of like mirrored room stuff, a lot of like very similar kind of environments.
It almost felt like they were trying to do callbacks.
Right.
But
they weren't quite close enough to be callbacks, and they were too elongated to work as a bit.
Well, they were elongated, and they weren't emphasized.
Sure.
And it felt like they were trying to do a callback, but it ended up just being background.
Right. Not just a different setting.
Yeah. And so, I totally agree.
I didn't particularly like the little fan club moments that kept happening. The like, I'm so happy to have met you, Mr. Wick. I'm your biggest fan moments that kept coming up.
So
I didn't love that.
I didn't mind that because everyone who did it was a protege of the main bad guy who was a like borderline creepy stalker dude. Which I actually really liked that character. The bald villain guy. Like, I liked him because he was just a weird guy.
He was a weird guy.
Like, just genuinely weird. And the way he dies, where it's just like he's got a sword through his chest, and he sits himself up, and you're like, that was a pretty good fight, wasn't it? Like, trying to get John Wick to like him.
Right.
Just karate chopped my mic.
But see, violent movies are bad.
It is. Dang, Mike, get out of my way. But like his whole character was, he was a creepy fanboy,
right,
of John Wick. He was one of the members of your audience.
Yes.
Wanting...
That's my whole audience was that guy. That's a good way to describe them.
Yeah, and, like, wanting to be ultra-violent, like, he is a master of death, you know.
I did feel like many of them should have been wearing a false eyelash on the lower half of one of their eyes.
Going Clockwork Orange on us, okay. But his real defeat wasn't being beaten physically by John. It was John not acknowledging him.
Sure.
And I liked that. Like, I enjoyed that. But yeah, there was a couple of moments where it was like his proteges that were just like, it's a pleasure to meet. It's like, hey, pleasure to meet you. You know, biggest fan. Like,
Time to murder you now. Bye.
Though, which is a bummer because those two guys, those, I think they're Taiwanese.
Yeah.
They're part of the martial arts team and are actors in two of my all-time favorite movies, Raid 1 and 2, which are just some of the greatest fight choreography you'll ever see. I think it's a Tony Jaa movie, and they're phenomenal. And they, the one that's kind of balding with the ponytail, plays the main villain, and they're just great martial artists. So it was cool to see them in a Western film,
right?
Other than a bit role, like I think they were in Star Wars Episode 7 at one point, just as I think they were the Kenja Club when they're
cool,
yeah, super cool. But yeah, it was cool seeing them, but their parts were a little weird. I was really happy to see. I can never remember his name. Lance Riddick, playing the concierge. I loved how much more he was in this movie. He's my favorite character in the entire series.
By far the best character.
Yeah. And he's just such a calm, quiet, utter badass that loves dogs. It's like, I aspire to be him. But shut up. No, but I loved his character, and I loved Ian McShane in this movie.
He belongs in this heightened type of universe. He does well in this type of setting. Yeah,
definitely. What was her name? The aggregator? No. The adjudicator. She was weird. Like, I couldn't place her. Like, she was alien almost. Her mannerisms and...
Which I think was kind of the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. She didn't quite...
Well, I don't say it as a negative. But it just was... She was just a weird character.
Yeah. There was something that just was a hair's breadth off of landing perfectly for me. It was less intense than the call center, which has not improved. The tattoo quality has improved a little bit. And they have that one guy in it.
Opportunity now. They have one tatted dude.
Isn't he the actor from Gotham? Didn't he play Penguin?
Yeah. I think that's...
So this is just like the universe he is willing to act in is the seedy underground. He looks good with the snake bites. I'll allow it, but it was still a totally off-putting section of the film.
It was really weird too because he talked like this, and so when they did the close-up on the introduction, I thought it was a girl.
Couldn't quite tell.
I thought it was like an older lady,
and I think that was intentional.
Yeah,
yeah,
I could see that
based on the way they framed those scenes. I think it was completely intentional.
Yeah,
so that they could pull back and be like, "Oh my god, it's a dude!" Wow.
Yeah, the call center, the operating center, is a weird.
I like
still
it.
Weird.
It just doesn't fit with the rest of the John Wick world very well.
Yeah.
Like if it were in some other story where the rest of the aesthetic hinted at that at all
style, yeah,
it would be great. But it just it's so stylized when the rest of the world is purposefully blending into the normal world. And yes, I get it's underground. It's not the part of that needs to blah 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 blah. It feels jarring to me still.
But that's I think why I have a problem with it is literally everything else is a heightened sense